Sorry.
You gotta love technology. Just when you think you got everything set up
And
and you
all figured
run it
out.
and you test it and you prep it and you get it going, and when you go to click to go live, then
And it
all of a
starts
sudden and
spinning,
it's spinning,
spinning,
you're like,
spinning.
what the.
So, in order to plant something, you need dirt. And when dirt is involved, it's going to get messy. So, we are living examples that this whole journey of growing on YouTube is just that, a journey, and you're not going to have it all figured out. So, go ahead and start, and don't worry about everything being perfect.
I'm not going to even tell y'all I work in IT. So that doesn't mean you know everything in IT. That just means glitches happen. I
Yes,
didn't say a bad word. I said glitches
yes.
happen. So
We are so happy that you guys are here with us on our Friday night hot. We're going to talk tonight about
are you ready?
to get married. Are you? Are you? Let's put it in the chat. Are you ready? How many of you came tonight feeling like I'm ready? Yep, I'm ready to get married. Put it in the chat. I would like for you to do that. Um, I'm Renee.
And I'm Gil from the Rich Relationship Refuge. I guess we should have said that at the very beginning before we just start talking like we know y'all.
I'm sorry that we act like we know y'all, but we really do feel like we know you all. We appreciate all of your comments that you guys leave in the comments. We appreciate the way that you guys are being a part of this community, leaving your what you want and what you need and what you like and what you don't like. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You know, and just like the comment said, even if you are married, we like to talk about things that are relevant to even married couples as well, because even though we've been together 35 years, going on 35 years this
We still
year,
trying to get ready for marriage.
you still, I wouldn't quite put it that way, but you still are always got to be working on your marriage. That was always something, if you heard anything that we've ever talked about, that was something that was told to us early in our relationship, that if you just want to have a good marriage, you just got to work on your marriage, work on your marriage. But nobody really tells you what that work really is. And that work really starts with you, the
Yes, it does.
individual. And it's going to continue throughout the lifetime of your relationship, whether you married, single, looking, or almost down that aisle. It's still something that you're going to have to work on no matter what. So that's what these Friday night sessions are all about. We used to talk about going on date nights and things like this. So y'all on a date with us, because this is the kind of stuff we do. Even when we call ourselves having date night, we end up talking about relationships and talking about our marriage and things like that that are going on in our marriage, because that is a part of what it takes, even in a relationship.
And so I want to ask you all, if you are married, do you believe that you have it all figured out? Because I can say that even though Gil and I have been together since we started dating when we were 18, we've been married since we were 21. I believe that if you remain a student of anything, there's always room for you to grow and improve. And I think that unfortunately, so many times we think because we've been doing something for a long time that we're an expert or we have it all figured out. But how many of you know that you are constantly growing and changing and becoming a better version of yourself? So if Gil is still dealing with me or interacting with me based on who I was when I was 21, that girl is gone, y'all. She's gone. And that guy that was 21 years old when we got married is gone. And so it's just important that you remember that even if you're married, that this information, that our channel, that the things that we're doing is designed to strengthen marriage and to help people thrive in relationships. And so I want to add something we've been looking at in our channel. And one of the things that we are really grateful for, we're growing. You know, we're seeing growth, we're seeing comments, we're seeing subscribers, and we want to give a gift to our 1700 subscriber. And Gil, you want to say what their name is?
No, go ahead.
Their name of the our 1700 subscriber is the McKinney Family Life. So McKinney Family Life, we have a gift for you. Please,
Mackenzie. I'm sorry.
Mackenzie. Okay,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
McKinsey. I'm glad you
Mackenzie.
looked at it. The McKinsey Family Life. We have a gift for you. Thank you for being our 1700 subscriber. We are going to be giving gifts to our subscribers. We're not going to say what the number is because we want you guys to be involved, but we're going to give a gift this time. We gave one to our 1400th. So for our 1700 subscriber, we have a gift for you. Please reach out to us at richrelationshipsrefuge at gmail.com and we'll send you your gift. Please reach out to us. We appreciate you. But one of the things that we noticed in doing all the background, we have people from all over the world. And it is humbling to think that people who are from other countries are listening to Rich Relationship Refuge. So just know that if you're a part of this community, you're a part of a well-rounded community. I want you to put in the chat where you're coming from and where are you from. We're both from Detroit, but we live in Alabama. And so please share with us where you are, where you're from, or where you're watching us from, and where you're from. We'd like for you to do that.
So I got a question. How did you actually come up? This is kind of an engagement, just a talk. We
Yeah, you
actually
guys-
going to be looking, but we do have things that we're going to cover, I promise. But I just wanted to ask, because a lot of times, even before we do the lives, we'll talk, but we'll also set up things separately. So this can be very organic. It's not rehearsed. It's not practiced. We haven't came up and say, okay, you say this and I say that.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way. We are actually, this is organic. So I'm actually wanted to ask Renee, what was it that led to Are You Ready for Marriage?
Well, I think a part of it is that with our community, I look at the questions that people are asking. I had someone to send us a comment that said, there was someone, and I won't say their name, but they were saying that they're a wife in waiting. And I felt like I was really humbled by the fact that she was willing to come to us for that.
Okay.
And so I'm like, if you have women who are wives in waiting, I think it's best to learn how to be a wife from someone who's a wife.
Sure.
So I thought that would be a good topic. And so I also follow other people and I look at the questions that people are asking, and it's something that people want to know about. How do you become a good wife? Are you ready for marriage? And so you read in the comments what is someone.
Oh, I was just looking at where everybody's from. So I see Indianapolis in here. I see Texas. I see live in Texas, but from Kentucky. I see that. That's
Wonderful.
Awesome. Cool. And as we go through, we're just going to be looking. So if I stop and start looking down, it's because we're trying to do both.
Right.
We're going to be talking, but we're also going to be doing in the chat.
If you're watching this later on, put in the chat or in the comments where you're from, because we really want to genuinely get to know you and we want you to get to know us. And so this is a part of us doing it because we feel like it's really easy to see someone in a video and feel like it's so together and polished that that's not a real person. But we felt like if going live and let you guys see just like this, we tried to
just like we were late with the setting
and it didn't work, So I think a part of it in building relationships is understanding, is having realistic expectations.
Cincinnati.
We don't expect for you guys to be perfect, and so we hope that you won't expect for us to be perfect, because the purpose of this community is to help us to grow and thrive in relationships, and that's going to happen from us asking hard questions. It's going to happen from us talking about topics that may be a little bit uncomfortable. Last week we even talked about menopause, and so if there's any question or comment, question or thing you want to know, put it in the chat, put it in the you can actually put it in the comments, but you could also send us an email at richrelationship@gmail.com, because sometimes people don't want to be, they want to remain anonymous, and we want you to be able to do that. So thank you for telling us where you're from. Continue to do that. And so
I wanted to jump in because one thing that we always have been doing since we have been working with couples for 18 years now, is we realized early in our ministry, if we want to call it that it's very important of knowing assessments. We're really big on assessments when we work with our couples. And the reason being is it's important to know where you are when you're in a relationship, about to start one, or have been in one for a long time, because you are always constantly evaluating and reevaluating and relooking at and learning and changing in the relationship as it grows.
Right.
So it's really big to be in relationships, but also understanding that there are going to be some changes that happen. And even if you've been married, just like someone said in the comment already, that they've already been married for a while, that's what tonight is actually we're going to be talking about, as far as are you ready for marriage? And there's some things that we're going to actually pose as questions, but give you some background on when it comes to 5 signs. Are you ready for marriage?
Yeah.
The do's, and 5 signs that you may not be ready. And then we're going to actually give you some actionable things that you can take away from this, because you may have to develop new habits even while you're dating before you go ahead and make that long-term commitment to get married.
And I think it's important to understand that there are things that you have to do as an individual to be prepared for marriage, because the other person can't make you prepared.
No.
So I think that it's important, even if you are married, these are still things to just go back and check and to look at and say, well, man, I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. So it's never too late to go back to what made you successful and to continue to add on to that. One of the things I want to do, because we always start off each episode with a kiss, and
Oh,
we
I'm
did.
sorry.
So, and so we want to make sure we start.
That's because we are late with the setup.
So I think it's just important that, just like that, there are habits that we have established as a couple over the years that have helped us to be mindful and to be kind to each other. And something as simple as, not getting too busy to do the things that, because what it takes to get the person, it takes to keep them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just want to remind you of that. So one of the things that I thought was really important was everybody doesn't want to be married. So if you find yourself, you say, I don't want to be married, that's okay too. So we're not trying to say that marriage is for everybody, because marriage is not for everyone. Some people have the gift of being single, and that's a gift. And if you know that that's your gift, and sometimes the way you find that out is over time. So don't feel the weird. If you feel that being single is your gift, enjoy your singleness, because it's really about you fulfilling your purpose. And if you can fulfill the purpose that God has for you without you being married, then praise God, that's a blessing. And if you know that the call that God has in your life requires you to have someone else to do it, then be open to that too.
So we're going to jump in and get started. We were talking about it before this session of, do we want to give the good first, or do we want to give the not ready first? And we were going back and forth.
So we let you guys tell us.
So if you want to be, are you ready? Put a 1 in the chat. If you want to be, you may not be ready, put a 2. So we're going to look at that, and the first person that responds a 1 or 2, that's where we're going to start. So anybody, just put a 1 or 2, because we'll go with either one. A 1. All right. So I like that, because you know why? I voted for, are you ready? I would rather start it out with the things that you are already ready with.
And me, I was like, let's start off with, you ain't ready.
Yeah. So we're going to start with the very first one. So are you ready? Number 1 of are you ready for getting married is being emotionally mature. I think about when I say emotionally mature, I didn't learn this. Oh, I didn't learn it. Renee already had it, but she had to teach it to me. I didn't learn it till we were later in our relationship as far as being emotionally mature, because I was not really emotionally immature, but I wasn't where I should be as it pertains to being in a marriage. And one thing that I had down pat as far as the 2 emotions that I could really express really, really well, like I think most men, I won't say all, but I'll say most, is lust and anger. Those are 2 things that we can just go and we just naturally fall into it, because if we're mad about something, it. If we are in a lustful state or a very physical aroused state, you'll know it. So those are 2, but one, even in our relationship, Renee was really instrumental in helping me identify some of the other things and other emotions that we as humans, as men, have that we may not be as tapped into, that can really have an impact on our relationship. Like as far as being being vulnerable. When I was vulnerable, or I was apprehensive or nervous or fearful about something, it wasn't very easy for me to express it, but Renee kind of sensed it, and she would really help me identify what was it that I was feeling. And that comes from communication, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And that was something that was very, very instrumental in helping me identify my emotional maturity.
And one of the things we have on our website at richrelationshiprefuge.com, we have an emotional intelligence test. So if you want that, you can again send us an email. We'll send it to you, because it's really important that, we can't do all that in an hour, but we have so many tools that are available that are free to help you to become the best version of yourself. And so that's on the website. If you want that, go to the, send me an email. I'll send you the actual emotional intelligence test, because I think sometimes we don't realize that our emotional intelligence says a lot about how we are going to navigate relationships. I'll give you an example of when I knew my emotional intelligence had grown. I was the kind of person that if I knocked something over, oh my gosh, I would go through the roof. I would just be so mad. It's like, wait a minute. And the Lord started showing me, he said, that's inside of you. That has nothing to do with what's in the cup. And so the way you learn to navigate and understand your emotional intelligence, that things that bother you that are small, it really is not what's going on outside. I shared a video today. In my first book I wrote, In Tragedy and Majesty, when I learned to control myself, everyone around me changed. So did I make them change? No, I changed. So emotional intelligence begins with you being aware of the things that are, everybody loves the word triggers. You become aware of what makes you go off. You become aware of what makes you get out of character. And so that's one of the things, you know.
So in a simpler way, even to even put that in a practical sense, conflict. How do you handle conflict internally, just like Renee would knocking over the cup, or externally with somebody that may be your significant other, your husband, your wife, your partner, your friends,
Somebody in traffic?
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you actually handle those conflicts, and what is your normal response? A person that just flies off the handle when something happened that had nothing to do with that individual, they were just the recipient of that wrath. That may be a sign of emotional immaturity, which is going to be coming up later. But this was one we are talking about. You are emotionally mature and able to handle that.
Yes. And that's important.
Yes.
And it's attractive too.
Number 2, shared values.
Wow. And you know why shared values is so important? Because first, in order to share values, you need to know what your values are. You know, and if you don't know what your values are, then that means you're going to take on the values of the other person. But then when you really begin to grow and you realize, wait a minute, those aren't my values. You know, something as simple as us talking about, are we going to raise our kids to go to church? We're going to teach them about faith. We're going to teach them about having a relationship with God. Those are the kind of things you need to know for yourself so that you come together and you talk about it. But it's important that you as an individual know what your values are.
And I think about that when we first started out, that was something that we discussed even while we were dating. When you are dating is a preparational time for marriage. And that's where you can find out all the positives, all the negatives, all the values, all the core beliefs, and all those things that is going to lay the foundation for your relationship throughout the entirety of the relationship. Because if you are at opposite ends on the value scale or the character scale, that's going to cause a problem. So when you have those shared values, that is something that means that you have spent time talking, discussing, and coming up and understanding what the other person believes and follows, and how you line up with what they're talking about.
So I'm going to ask the question: what is dating? This is one of the things Gil, when he was a cop, he always asked the people he worked with, what is the purpose of dating?
When you think about it, if you're in a dating stage.
Yeah. So if you're, what is the purpose of dating? And that's one of those questions that we need to ask, because if my definition of dating is preparation for marriage, and his definition of marriage is just to have fun, and
you know what?
Then we're going to have a problem, because our definitions of the thing that brought us together is not the same. And so it's important that goes back to those core values. It's important that you know what your values are, you know what your standards are before you get into a relationship.
Number 3, are you ready for marriage? Effective communication.
You should have known that was going to come on the
list. Everybody always talks about the communication in a relationship, how important it is and how vital it is and all those things. But we have come across couple after couple after couple who struggle in this area. So if you go into it knowing that communication is very, very important, why are you struggling with communication?
Well, I think a part of it is because people only think about the one part of communication, and that's the talking. And I think that talking comes easy for most people. Even introverted people can talk. Everybody can talk. But the most important part of communication is listening to understand. Not listening to respond, not listening to debate, not listening to change the person's mind. It's listening to understand. And so, but when we haven't been taught that, we think that I am a really good communicator. Well, are you a good listener? Because Gil one of the things that Gil helped me with, because communication has always been the part of communication that's verbal was always my strength. But I learned that I learned from him, because he's always been so calm and laid back. I learned that learning to listen was so important. And so he taught me the importance of not just being able to use my words, but being able to read the room, pay attention to what people don't say. And so in a relationship, you're both going to learn from each other. And so that's an important part, is staying communication the way it is.
And the easy way to remember that is Renee's shirt. Be honest, open, and transparent. That is a foundational principle for effective communication, because if you're doing those three things, it's going to make the conversation naturally flow in its natural order. Because the honesty part is just you talking about how you really feel. If a person or your partner has to guess, you're probably not communicating very effectively, because they shouldn't have to wonder what you think and what you want and all those types of things. There's nothing wrong with making your needs met, needs known, because that is vital to the communication process.
That's being assertive.
And we'll get to that one. That's one of the habits, but we'll talk about that
one. You should always be that. And something else I want to say is that we also have a communication assessment. It's in our workbook, but if you send us an email, we will send you the communication assessment, because it's not just to understand your communication. It's talking, it's understanding it, and it's talking and listening, but it's also knowing your communication style, because sometimes couples may have the ability to be good communicators, they may good listen well, but if your communication styles are different, that could be another obstacle to your communication. So again, send us an email at richrelationship@gmail.com, and we will send you the communication assessment.
So I appreciate is that Renee actually putting in the notes already. Emotional maturity, you see it right there. Shared values, effective communication. The next one is pretty important. It's probably one of the top two reasons why you may be ready for marriage. Financial stability. This is the practical side of things. Now, we've been talking about the emotions and the feelings and how things go and all that, but you can best believe after sex, I would be willing to say money is going to be the number one reasons why people have issues in their relationship. So financial stability is not meaning you have made all the money that you're going to make and you're rich and you're well off and you're good to go and all those things. It means that you are financially responsible for what you do. We've said this before in some of our episodes. Before we got married, when I was single, I made enough money. I always had a job. I took care of my bills, but I would go buy junk, y'all. I would just go buy. I would hit that ATM machine like every other day instead of just living off a budget, because my needs were met and I didn't have any major bills or anything. But I would actually just go to the machine on a whim, just grab. And those little whim grabs, like 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks. It adds up, and next thing you know, you're living paycheck to paycheck. So Renee brought some of that financial stability to my life, because when we got together, we were already talking about some of those things about like finances and things like that was vital to our relationship. That's one of the signs that you are ready for marriage, when you're financially stable.
And a part of being financially stable means that you're also sensitive to the fact that one person may be better at it than the other, and that you are willing to share. That, I think that's a big thing, because you can be doing well, but are you willing to share your knowledge? Are you willing to share your resources? Are you willing to share the responsibilities of what it's going to take for you to become a couple, to become one?
Now, I got a question for you. Okay. This is totally off from what we're talking about, just to give you guys an idea of how this is what we really talk about. We get this question a lot, and I'll let Renee answer it. Is it good to have his money, her money, even when you're married and you've been together for a long time? So how would you position that or respond to that if somebody said, I got my money, he got his money, and we're good? And that's being financially responsible and stable, isn't it?
Well, the whole thing about getting married is being on one accord and being together. And if you have your money and I have my money, that's a really easy way for us to go our separate ways. So if we combined our money together, then that gives us a more commitment in our relationship. Right. So it should be ours. And I think that we learned this later on, that you should have an allowance and I should have an allowance. But all the money that we make as a couple should go together in one account.
See, and Sheena actually agrees with me. I like the way she puts that. Yeah, you have a joint account together, and this is a strategy that works very, very well. You have a joint account to handle bills and things like that. This is just one way of doing it. Just like Sheena was saying, you have your money separately, so you can go out. I can go buy my CDs and my movies and all that kind of stuff. Whatever I like, she can go buy her purses and shoes and makeup and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't take away from us together. So I think that's very, very important. So there is no one side of doing things. You have to figure out what works for you two together. So it's not that it's a wrong way to do it. it's the way that works best for you that's going to make you both financially responsible for it as a whole, and that's together.
And the reason why I think it's good for you to put your money together as a couple and then you go out from there, because if one person is a spender and the other person is a saver, that can cause a problem too. Because I could be saving, you can be spending, but then when there's a need, I've seen couples, can I borrow $20 from you? I mean, come on now. We're sharing our bodies, we're sharing our lives, but our money is so money
separate.
can be a divider. And so it's just a matter of understanding that over the years of us being a couple and working with couples, we realize that if the enemy can't get your heart, he will get your checkbook. And so it's just important that in every area you realize that getting married means that yours is mine. Because guess what happens when you get married? My credit becomes his credit, and his credit becomes my credit. If I had good credit and his is bad, guess what happens, y'all? My credit is bad. So those are the kind of things you need to know when you are in the dating stage and getting to know each other.
All right, the last one. It's all about commitment, y'all. It's all about being committed and being dedicated. So you know you're ready for marriage is if you are ready to commit. It is the ultimate form of commitment and being dedicated. When I was a little boy, I wanted to be married. I knew that from even as a child. That was just something that I seen, and that's just something I want. I can't tell you why. Yeah, we can go into a whole nother session of childhood of origin issues and parents divorce and all that kind of stuff. But I just knew I wanted to be married. And when that came upon me, I knew inherently that I only wanted one wife. So I had to be committed. And I also had to be dedicated to this person that I decided to spend the rest of my life with. And we made a vow at the very beginning of our relationship when we were still in the dating stage that we said, you know what? Divorce is not an option.
Yeah.
We're going to put that off the table right now. And that was a level of commitment that we decided when we didn't know anything about this.
And we didn't even know Jesus.
And that's something that it may sound extreme and it may say, oh, it doesn't take all that. And even as I look back on it, that said something that we are, to me, about us as individuals, but also as a couple, that we said, you know what, we're in this for the long haul. And we are going to be dedicated and committed to each other, which means we already are saying we're going to work on our relationship consistently and continuously. And that's the kind of things that we're sharing, just like with you guys here tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And it's important to understand that you both have to be committed.
Yes.
His commitment is not going to work for me, and mine is not going. We both have to be committed, because if he's committed and I'm not, then that means he's dragging me. One of the biggest myths is that marriage is 50-50. Marriage is not 50-50. I bring 100% and you bring 100%. Because sometimes I may bring 80 and sometimes you may bring 20. It's never going to be 50-50. You're a whole person, so you bring your whole self. And so you have to be committed to the idea of spending your life with one person and making the best of that and looking for the things that you love about that person, not just looking at what's going to be wrong, because there's going to be things wrong.
And even when you're discussing it and talking about these things, also look at what's happening. You may have an ideal. Don't ignore what you see. If you see a person that is lacking in the commitment side, pay attention to it. Don't ignore it, but mark it down as something that before you go and get one of these things, you may want to decide, that's an area that we may need to work on a little bit more, or that I may need to work on a little bit more. Because again, it goes back to what we said at the very beginning of this. You're always doing a personal self-assessment on where you are in this. So just to recap, the 5 signs that you are ready to get married. This list is not inclusive. It is not the only thing. It's a lot longer, but we just narrowed it down to these things
that are most important.
Being emotionally mature, and Renee put it in the chat here, shared values, effective communication, financially stable and responsible,
and committed
and dedicated. So those are 5 things to actually be looking for, especially if you're in the dating phase, at least as a framework or even as a guideline that you can use to gauge this person. Like, okay, I at least have something. You don't have to share it with them and say, okay, let's go through this list. But you can actually have that in your mindset, or even a point of discussion, even while you're dating.
And we're not saying that you should just have one of these. You need all of these, because sometimes we think, Well, he committed or
He
she
did too, or
committed.
she got three.
No, you need all of these things because all of these things are going to give you a foundation that will be unshakable.
That's a good
If
point.
you only say, well, I got 2 out of 3, that's not bad.
Now, while you're a baseball player, that may get you in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. It
That's
does
not
not
going to
work
make your relationship
because
last.
marriage is a lifelong journey
Mhm.
that you're going to be spending with another person that's not like you. And if you don't have all these things we were saying right in the beginning, it's going to be harder for you to build on. You're not going to have anything to build on. You're going to be building on a really shaky foundation. And so these are just the things we've learned that really make a difference. And there's more, but we just wanted to narrow it down to the most important ones.
So now let's talk about the other side. This is where you really have to be honest with yourself. We're going to talk about you may not be ready for these things. And you're going to see there's a lot of parallels to this. So let's start with the very first one. The last one we gave you was commitment and dedicated. Well, the first one that you may not be ready is the opposite of that. You're uncertain.
Yeah.
And you have doubt.
Yes. And not only do you have doubts, you see sketchy behavior in the person. You're noticing that, oh, they're only available on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but why? Or I can only call them between certain hours, or nobody in my family. We talked about it last week. Well, what do you do when someone in your family doesn't? When you're dating, your family knows you. They love you. They're going to see things that you don't see. Don't ignore the obvious signs that the person is really not that into you, not really serious
and
about
seek
it.
the counsel of those people who are around you, who love and care about you, your best friends, your girlfriends, your boyfriends, your bros, whoever, that you trust their counsel, that you understand that they're going to see you they're going to see you another way, especially when you're around this individual that Renee doesn't usually doubt, and she acts a little bit different. That's maybe something that may be an indicator for you that they will see and bring that to your attention. That's something that you have to pay attention to, because they want to protect you and they want to value and trust and protect your heart. So that's something that's so important. Number 2, you lack emotionally responsibility and readiness. It's just like what we said at the very beginning as far as about you're emotionally mature. If you're emotionally immature, that can be a sign. This is a hard one because nobody wants to think of themselves as immature in any area, but you have to be honest with yourself. Just like what we talked about as far as if one of your emotions is just flying off the handle and always angry and always mad about every single thing, that may be an indicator that you're emotionally immature, or you need to work on this area in yourself before you partner in with another person for the rest of your life.
And a part of understanding emotional immaturity is the amount of time that it takes for a person to recover from you disappointing them. If I do something that you don't like, how long does it take for you to get over it? If you can go 5 days and not talk to me, that is an indicator that you are emotionally immature. And normally when people are emotionally immature, they walk in unforgiveness. You do not want to spend your life with someone who is going to hold you hostage emotionally because they don't know how to forgive. And I really believe the same measure you measure is going to be measured back. When people can't forgive you, it's because they haven't forgiven themselves. And so that's a real big indicator that you might not want to go down this road with this person.
And I'll add one last thing. How this looks like in practical life application is, do you doing personal assessment again, have some unresolved things that you know that are there that are impacting and having an effect on your relationship right now? It's not a secret. You know what they are. You just have to be honest about it and say, you know what? I may need to work on that. Let's just use anger as an issue. If I fly off the handle at the drop of a dime and every little thing makes me mad and upset, that's a sign. And you have to be willing to heed it as far as why.
And for men, you was talking about being angry. Do you eat or shop excessively? Do you use that as a way to deal with what's going on? Because eating and shopping can be just as dangerous in a relationship as anger and lust can be. So we both, as men and women, we both bring something to the relationship that can be a negative, but we need to know what ours are. Because sometimes we know what they need to do different and what their problem is, but do you know what you bring to relationships that's causing them not to grow?
No, absolutely. Now, number 3, sign that you may not be ready.
Dun, dun, dun.
Communication issues. Let's talk about communication again. You talk about this one first. I'm
Yeah.
gonna let Renee jump in on this one. You have issues with communication.
And one of the things that we didn't talk about is tone and volume. I grew up in a house where the women in my family had big voices and short words, like cuss words. That was how I grew up. That's what I thought was normal, cussing and screaming. Cussing and screaming is not a strategy for good communication.
I know she's gonna tell the story, but go ahead. You're gonna tell the story.
Me and Gil.
See, I told
We
you.
had a situation, and we mentioned it before, where he's supposed to come and pick me up, and he did, and I cussed him out. I didn't know Jesus. I wasn't saved, and I cussed him out. And his response was, "You are so beautiful and intelligent. Why would you use words like that?" Now, my response was not to cuss him out more. My response was, "Wow."
And I wasn't trying to embarrass her or make her feel bad. It was just something that was not my experience growing up in a household, that my mom was very nurturing, very caring, and used words and explained a lot of things. So when you come across someone who has an experience that is contrary to what you have experienced, it's going to have an impact on your relationship. You cannot interact with a person that has not had your same experiences. If you go and do that, these are the signs that you may want to start working on these things, because you are going to have to change how you interact with each other that fits each other, not just the way you have always done things.
And I think one of the big things that it may not be on the list, but we need to understand is that a healthy relationship is going to make you better. They're going to add value to you. They're going to say things to you that maybe no one has ever said to you, but it's going to make you feel, dang, he's right. What? That's what they all do, but he's right. It's not right. And so that goes back to emotionally mature. How do you respond to being corrected? All of these are ways, because I think that a relationship is supposed to make you better.
Mhm.
If you are the same or worse, then you could be by yourself and do that.
Right. So those are, was that 3 or 4?
That's-
That's 4. No, this
3.
is number 4. This is number 4. Incompatible values. If your values are contrary to this person that that are inherent and inside of you from the foundation of who you are, like they say, it's
At
in
your
your
core.
DNA, at your core.
Yeah.
It's contrary. If their points and their opinions and their views and values are different than yours,
You can't change that.
you can't change that.
Yeah,
While you may be ready, they may not.
Right. And a part of it is to think that you are going to change someone at the DNA level it's a waste of energy.
Mhm.
And it's really prideful to think that you are going to make them do something that, when I say he made me better, he brought something to my attention and I made a decision. It wasn't going against who I was. It was correcting where I was in error.
Mhm.
It's not about one person. Is not you're two different people, but it's just understanding that your values and my values need to complement each other. I think about something as simple when we were growing up is that, like, I had people in my family that I just adored. I wanted to see how Gil felt. How did they get along with each other? Did they enjoy each other? And those are the kind of things you have to take into consideration in the dating stage. Don't ignore. Talk about everything. Share everything, because the only way you're going to know if this person is really the person for you is by being honest, open, and transparent. Don't let them fall in love with your representative.
Because if those incompatible values bring up conflict, don't ignore it.
Right.
That incompatibility and that conflict, while you may be able to change, and you're going to be changing in the relationship, and that's a part of growing, that's a part of working on the relationship, because everything that I believed before I became Gil, her husband, was not right.
Yeah.
Everything that you believe and follow and do may not be right.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to say, you know what, let me think about that, let me look at it, and be willing to change, as long as it's not changing who you are at your core. Yeah. That's important too.
Because for us, we were not saved when we got married. Both of us shared the same belief of not having a relationship with God.
Right.
But I got saved and I gave my heart to the Lord. And I am an extreme personality. So everything I was doing the day before, I didn't do it anymore. I was like, that's gone. And that could have destroyed our relationship.
Yeah.
But the people around me said, just pray for him. Pray for him. Let him see the light and the love of Christ in you. That will draw him. And that's what happened. But just imagine if I would have tried to force him to give his heart to the Lord. We cannot make someone, you can let them see the love in your light in your life and they want that, but you can't make somebody do that.
Right.
And so that was a real big turning point for us because I got saved first and you got saved.
Yes.
And it really did make our relationship stronger.
Yes.
Because it gave us something that we could depend on that was bigger than us.
Right. So the last one, as far as you may not be ready, is something that is very, very basic, we believe, is the commitment side. If you're not committed to the relationship, you definitely are not ready to make a long-term relationship happen. So that's something that you have to really think about, because sometimes that can manifest in ways that are not communicated verbally. If the person is not there physically, spiritually, emotionally, and they're not saying the words, you have to look at the signs, because they will show you their level of commitment. It's an action word. It's a verb. It's things that they do on a regular, consistent basis that's going to be your indicator of their commitment to you.
And a part of it is something as simple as your birthday, holidays, the things that are important to you. If that person is not available for you for those things, then you might be committed, but they may not be committed. You both have to have the same level of commitment where you make each other the priority. You make your relationship the priority. Because if you're not both doing that, that means you're going to be pulling. Marriage is only hard when it's one person.
Yes.
Relationships are only hard when it's one person. Friendships are only hard when it's one person. So in every relationship, what you bring to the relationship, the other person should bring that and match it, or it should be higher.
Absolutely.
It should never be that you're settling or you're dating down. It should always be, like I said, matched or higher, because we're all valuable and we all should realize that when we're going into relationships, that this is something that you are saying, I want to do for the rest of my life. And so that's going to take time for you to get to know that person, for you to really know you, and for you to know that other person as well.
So we gave you some are you readies, and we gave you some you may not be ready. But how do you deal with the things that you may not be ready for? Well, you have to develop new habits. And the way you develop new habits is by, like this, getting new information. Even if you've heard it before, you've seen it before, you got the t-shirt and all that good stuff. This is something that your mind is being renewed consistently, constantly, over and over and over again. That is going to remind you of what's important to you. And as long as you are practicing those things and looking at those things, your list is going to be long. You should always be working on the best part of you, getting better and better at your relationship as an individual, because that's going to do nothing more than pay dividends in the relationship. So some new habits that we can share with you and that we can give you in these last 15 minutes or so. Start out with, if you are struggling with communication, like we talked about, start working on becoming a real, better, effective communicator. Renee mentioned it before, and I'll let her elaborate on it as far as when she talks about explaining the difference between assertive communication and aggressive communication.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we understand that. Gil was listening to sports and they're talking about being assertive. Being assertive is fine if you're an animal, because being assertive in the animal kingdom is because of scarcity. They don't have what they need. As humans, because we are intelligent and we can communicate and articulate what we want and need, we should be assertive and never aggressive. Because aggression is, I'm trying to make you give me something that I don't want to give you. And that never goes over well. I want you to want me. I want you to give me what you want me to have and what you feel that I'm worthy of. I don't want to have to force you. And so the most important part of understanding that you need to know what you want and what you need, and you need to be able to share that with the other person. But it's also understanding that you may not always get exactly what you want.
Right.
You know, an important part of communication is also giving the other person the time to share back, to listen to what you say. But also, if you said something to them, giving them the time to process it. Me and Gil are different. Gil is a processor. So a part of our communication looks like, baby, what's going on?
Just thinking.
Okay.
Got a lot on my mind.
And not, well, tell me what's going on. What's wrong? What's wrong? And when we first got married, because I'm not. Let's get it done. Let's get it finished. Let's go. And I realized I was making him close up even more. And so I'm like, wait a minute, let me back up some, because you have to know your personality well enough to know that sometimes your personality is your biggest benefit and enemy. And so I'm like, well, what do you how long do you need? You know, you have to be willing to give the other person the time to process what's going on and not think that communication means, well, I want to talk now, so we got to talk now.
Right. And so the other side of that, as far as when Renee talked about the assertive side, is the active listening side. That is so important, because we said it at the very beginning, a couple points back, was you have to be able to, you want to be able to give the person that you're in love with and that you're looking to spend the rest of your life with is a understanding in the needs that they have, so you can communicate effectively with that. So if I don't understand what Renee needs from me, how can I really be effectively communicating to her if she says something to me and I don't listen, or I don't pay attention, or I can't regurgitate back to her what it is that I heard her say? Sometimes you can work on paraphrasing. If you heard her say this, try paraphrasing it back to her in a way that you can communicate. And then at the end of that, don't put a period there, put a question mark and say, is that right? She'll tell you if you're right or wrong. And then if she's not, then say it again. Yeah. This is something that I think couples that we've worked with in the past, they get frustrated by, because listening is very difficult if you haven't been practicing it. It's something that you're going to have to work on. This is developing that new habit. So when it does come into play, you want to hit it 100% of the time to say, this is what I heard. And so now I can take that and put it into action.
And I think it's important to understand that it's a journey. You are not expected to have everything all figured out. And that's where grace comes in. We have to give each other the grace to grow and to learn. And one of the things that we put into our marriage, we practice, is that if I come to Gil with something that I'm concerned about, then he doesn't get to tell me, well, you did this, or then you did that. That is not only is that not good communication, it creates an environment where the other person doesn't feel that they can come to you and share what they want and what they need without being retaliated against. So that's something else, just a little tidbit to remember that.
So number 2, a new habit that you can start. This is something that became a strength for me early in our marriage, is being willing to compromise. You are not going to get your way 100% of the time. I'm going to say that again. You're not going to get your way 100% of the time, but you are going to have to compromise in those areas that are important to you as well as to your partner. Because when you do that, and my wife, if there's things that I have, now there are going to be times where it's just like absolute, I feel very strongly about this. Well, that may take some more communication. That may make some more time that we have to dialogue about something. But to think that you're never going to compromise to the needs of your wife or your husband or your dating partner, then you're gonna have a problem, because nobody gets what they want 100% of the time.
Because it's two people.
Yes.
And it's impossible for you both to get everything you want. I think that's the beauty of you sharing your life with someone, because sometimes the things you want may be things you don't need, and you may not see it because you just want what you want.
Right.
And so that's the beauty of there being a person that's not like you in the relationship, to show you something that, you really didn't need that.
Right. And so that's one. This one we talked about continuously over and over again, as far as the do's and the don'ts, as far as are you ready to get married and are you not ready to get married, is emotionally intelligent. This is something that I think gets overlooked so much in relationships, about just not being aware of the emotions of the other person. The emotions that, if I know me and Renee have been together for, some people say, oh man, y'all been together forever. Well, we've been together a long time, to the point that I can feel, I jokingly say, I feel a disturbance in the force when she walks into the room. If something is not right or something is off balance, I can read her that fast, and I just know that something is going on internally in her. Something is going on in her emotionally, and she does it to me as well, to the point to where we know we are so emotionally intelligent and in tune with each other that we can sense it and we can know it. And that's something that has just developed over time. And if you are already doing that now in your relationships, bravo, that is going to be a superpower. That is a strength. But if you're not aware of it, if developing your emotional intelligence, I think we even did a podcast episode on
Yeah.
emotional intelligence last year. It's out on there. You can go and look at it on our podcast episode. It's there in the playlist. And it talks about how you develop that emotional intelligence. And that's something that you
And
can
one of
be
the
aware of.
biggest indicators of your emotional intelligence is empathy. It's your ability to, not sympathy. Empathy is your pain in my heart. Like I can see Gil and I know it's like, babe, what's going on?
You feel that.
It's like, what's wrong? You know? And so empathy is so important. And let's just say you were born with a low emotional intelligence. Does that mean you have to stay that way for the rest of your life? No, it's not like your IQ. Your EQ can grow and it can develop and it can become, you can become better at it. But first you have to be aware of it. And then second of all, you have to be intentional about something as simple as paying attention to the room. You know, Lyric and Elijah, we're teaching them already about emotional intelligence.
Our niece and nephew.
Yeah, look at them. Or what's this expression on my face? You know, what's teaching them to be aware of what's going on with other people. Because if you live your life only thinking about how you feel, that's not going to help you to be an asset in a relationship.
Right, right. And so the fourth one is the fourth habit that you can build is called building trust. Renee gave you that little story about us and as far as when we were dating and how she went off on me a little bit.
Okay,
well, one thing that was very, very important in us and that we really didn't have a problem with establishing is trusting each other. If I'm stable and I'm confident in my relationship with Renee, I'm not concerned about where she at, who she with, what she doing, why is she with me, all those things. That's called control. That's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother hour-long live session. But when we built a certain level of trust with each other, there are things that we did in our relationship that put on boundaries and borders to protect that trust. For example, I don't ride in the car with single women or women by themselves. Unless it's in an extreme situation, that's just one thing that I do as a habit. And Renee does the same.
Yeah. And something else that I don't do, I don't give men eye contact. When I'm out in public, I don't give men eye contact because I have a very friendly personality, and I learned this early. I'm naturally friendly and engaging, and so that can be taken as flirtatious. So when I'm out in public, I'm not gonna see you. You are invisible to me. And so, and it's not because Gil is jealous or possessive. It's just that I know that my personality has been taken the wrong way before, and I'm like, to prevent that, you have to know yourself well enough to know what you need to do to guard your peace and to help the trust build, to grow between you two.
And Renee mentioned the last one that we'll share with you tonight is be honest with yourself about the relationship. That's a strong habit that you must develop, because if you're not honest with yourself about where the state of the relationship really is, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you're not we talked about it being honest, open, and transparent. If you can't be honest with yourself about how the relationship really is, you have to look at it from a reality standpoint, not from one of, we call it the rose-colored glasses, how you wish it to be, how you want it to be.
I'm gonna name it and claim it, and he just gonna become better, or she gonna become better. No, you're gonna be miserable.
That doesn't work. So we just want to share some of the things that we talked about tonight as we coming up to the close. This hour goes by so fast, and we have so much information that we want to share, not just from this is what you can do, but also just using ourselves as an example. That's why we do this. We just want to share information with people about relationships, and to have such a good marriage that we have. We just want to share that with everyone else, not our relationship that you can develop and you can have for yourself. But sometimes you have to unlearn or relearn or learn some new things that can help you get that across, and even in your own life.
And I think it's important that you know that we do this because we didn't have it. We didn't have people we can go to and talk to. And so many times, one of the comments, that we got this last week was, I want to be married and you guys give me hope.
It's fun, y'all. This is a blast for me.
It's such a blessing to know that if you're doing something that can impact someone's life in a positive way, it's worth it.
Yes.
And so I know we have a lot of our ICS people on here who are content creators. And so we love you guys being here supporting us. just know that just like we're doing this, there are other people on YouTube who have a desire to make an impactful impact in your life that's positive. And so check us out, continue to be a part of our community, share, like, subscribe, continue to share what you want and what you need, because we want to create this place for you.
So if you got any questions or comments, we got like 5 minutes. Anybody got any comments they want to put in the chat or anything that we can relay to everyone else? We appreciate you. Again, by somebody, if you want to type in something, that's fine. We have everything available. You can reach us through the website at richrelationshiprefuge.com, or you can email us at richrelationships.us@gmail.com, or you can find us, just Google Gil and Renee. Yeah. And I don't say that as a brag. Renee just works really hard on all the social media stuff that we do, just so we can make this information available to those, even if it's not for you and it's not applicable to you. If you know someone who needs the help, pass it on.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's what we really, really want to do, is bring value to everybody's relationship as much as we can. And we are out there listening and watching other people too. Some stuff we gonna steal, y'all. I'm gonna tell you, we gonna put it on our channel. But we appreciate y'all. We appreciate you actually taking the time, spending an hour with us as we share this information with you. And if you got anything you want to put, so how long have we been married? This December, it will be 35 years. Mm-hmm. She don't even look that old, y'all.
I'm 55.
We're both in our 50s. We're both 55.
Yeah. Gil's birthday is next month, y'all. He's gonna be 56.
So yeah, I'm chasing youngsters. But so that's where we're at. And then one last thing, thank you. We appreciate you guys for sharing. We appreciate that. Thank you.
We love you guys. You guys are the best community. I feel the love in the comments, and we had somebody say you guys don't look real. We're real. We're real, and what you see is what you get.
And you can really call us for real.
And if you call us, we really will answer for real. We don't have a team of people to do this. It's us.
This is it right now. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks for sharing this hour with us. We appreciate you. We love and respect everyone here who took the time and even watched the channel. Check out the other stuff we have made available, whether it's on YouTube and all the other platforms and things like that.
And we have lots and lots of, we have 357 videos on YouTube, and we're on every podcasting platform, and we're also on YouTube's. YouTube has a new podcasting platform. We're on that too, so you can listen to
us YouTube Music.
YouTube Music, and we're on all the platforms. But just help us get the word out. Take the time to get the information and apply it and share it. And we love you. We can make marriage great again, and sexy again, and powerful
and
again.
Fun, because it
is fun.
So we'll see you guys next week. We'll be back here same time. I promise we'll be on time. We're gonna be on time. Because we're gonna check this again. We appreciate you guys. Love you.
We love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next Friday.
Have a good night.